You're going to hold hands. Remember, it's an unbroken circle. Unbroken circle. Or everybody puts their hands on a person in the center, but it's unbroken. The rest of the hands have to be attached. Easiest way is unbroken circle. Everybody holding hands. You've got to be connected. Are you ready in the back? Okay, are we ready? Everybody. I want you to formulate that intention statement in your mind. Bring it down to your heart. Send it out through your heart. Remember during this intention to imagine that person being healthy and well with all of your 5 senses. Feel it, see it, hear it, taste it, smell it. That person being healthy and well in every way. Recipient, open up your heart to receive. Just gently keep going back to that intention statement every so often. Senders. Would anybody like to share their story to the rest of the group?
I'm a whiplash patient. I fell off a horse 16 years ago and I felt my neck stopping to hurt. So actually I'm pain-free right now.
Yeah. Wonderful.
In the last years, this was the first occasion when I realized again that I can imagine.
You can visualize now. Visualize. And of course the intention was to overcome her insomnia.
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And my body started moving and it felt really good.
And I can honestly say that I can see more clearly in both eyes right now.
Wonderful, wonderful. We'll see what happens. See what happens.
I heard afterward there were a number of other people with amazing experiences but were too shy. My husband said in his group there's a woman who was completely healed of something and just, didn't want to say.
Okay.
So there are more and more stories. There are always stories like
Yes,
this. And every time I'm the most amazed person in the room.
That's good, that's good. Yes, but it means actually that we go from the I to the we,
Yes, exactly.
And that's what's changing the world. If we don't think separate,
Yes.
we can do it together. Yeah.
Absolutely. I was very aware. I did a lot of work on that with my last book, The Bond.
Yeah.
Is all about that we were never meant to be competitive individuals and separate.
Yeah.
When we are, we suffer.
Yeah.
When we work together, we thrive.
One of the questions I had, because the title was The Power of 8, so I was listening, why 8, why 8, why 8? I didn't hear it that night. It was just a coincidence that you started with groups with 8 people.
It was exactly as I said in my talk, a complete accident.
Yeah.
There wasn't any sacred geometry, there wasn't any desire to look at 8 as a sideways for infinity, nothing that deliberate. It was completely out of the blue. I just said, hey, why don't I put them in groups of 8?
Yeah.
And as I say, my husband said, yeah, I love it, the power of 8.
Yes.
And, he's a good headline writer. So that was only it.
Okay.
And so we never expected any of the results. And afterward you can say, well, there were no accidents. Maybe it was some sort of amazing synergy, and maybe I had some intuitive sense about it. But all I can tell you is how it happened.
Yeah, I see. But is there a difference between 7, 8 or 9 or 10 people? Did you see anything like that?
No.
Oh.
And I think you need more than 5. To make a group, you need 5 or more, I would say. And then when it's more than about 12, it gets unwieldy. So I like to say that 8 is like a Goldilocks figure.
Okay.
It's not strictly necessary, but it's kind of a perfect number because it's not too small, it's not too big, and of course there are a lot of things associated with 8.
Okay. Okay, but you didn't find out yet. Maybe you are doing this your next experiment. If there is a difference between the effect between 8 or 12 people, or 8 or 20 people.
No, we haven't done that, and that would be interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, what I have seen is, because I put people in groups, in my master classes, and I have found that the real important thing is that them meeting regularly. As they meet regularly, they start intending for each other, they become more bonded, they become more as a unit, and they become more powerful. And many times they're not meeting in 8, strictly 8. They may have 9 members, they may have 6 members, whatever. And maybe 6 members only can appear that week, but it's still powerful.
Okay, so the repetition is also a thing.
Yeah, I think practice is, I teach in my master class how to do intention. And a lot of people have a lot of ideas about it and do it wrong, in my view, based on the evidence I've seen and the evidence through our own experiments. For instance, one thing people don't usually do is be very specific.
Yeah.
They'll say things like, I want to be rich.
Yeah.
Well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And does that mean they want lots of money? Or does that mean actually what they really mean probably is, I want a new job. I want more time for myself. I want to pursue my hobbies. I want more time with my children or grandchildren. But they don't necessarily mean I have to have money, lots of money. They really want freedom and time, more than that, or to pursue something that has much more meaning to them.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of way where, you've got to tell the universe what you want. I had somebody the other day who said, my intention is to live my highest purpose. Well, don't say that. Say what your highest purpose is.
Okay.
Tell the universe what you want. So that's just one of many areas where people can become better intenders.
Okay. And then if you do it every week, this is also a good, or is it just coincidence too, every week, once in a week?
Well, it's not every week per se, it's regularly.
Okay.
And with my master class, what I found is, when I studied a group for a whole year, 250 of them, the 150 who met regularly, and that mostly meant every week with their group, they're the ones who had major life changes.
Okay.
100% of them had something amazing happen in their lives, whether it meant, making up with estranged relatives, finding an amazing new job, having incredible financial windfalls, healing a lifelong illness or an illness of many years, or rediscovering, what their life's purpose. All of those things happen to the people meeting regularly. So I can only conclude that is really a powerful element of it.
I see. And I think it becomes kind of a habit too in your normal daily life, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that these people become closer. When you have a Power of 8 group, you become closer to that group in many ways than your family. They're people who always have your back. Imagine a group of people who are praying for you all the time. I mean, I have bunches of them. They took my master class 3 years ago, but they're still meeting or in contact almost every day. And I know Mitchell Dean, one of the guys, said, I was suffering from insomnia, and I told Robert. Robert is one of the people he got close to in his group. And Robert said, don't worry, last night I had you covered. I was intending for you. Okay. And it's that kind of thing, having somebody. And this somebody is somebody you've never physically met. You've only met, the way we're meeting right now, on Skype.
Yeah.
They met every week on Skype or on Google Hangouts.
Oh.
But they never have physically met.
Okay.
These are people in my master class who were put together maybe because they're in the same time zone.
Okay.
But they live very far away. So in the majority of cases, they've never physically met each other.
Oh.
And nevertheless, this is their intention family.
Okay. I thought it were the same groups like we were seeing, sitting in a circle.
No.
Oh.
In my master class, I've got people from, this year I've got, which it just started last Saturday, I have people from 32 countries, including South Korea and Guatemala.
Wow.
So I have people from all over the world participating. And what we've done is we'll be putting them into time zones. Right now, they're just listening to me doing a 6-week course. But then we put them into groups of 8 according to their time zones. And we give them all kinds of directives, etc. But their real work is in working with each other.
Okay.
So we let them know, we give them tips and challenges every single week, and I do some follow-up calls. But the real work is about them taking what they were taught and putting it into practice with the group.
How did it change your life? Because with all these intentions for everybody and the whole world, must have done a lot for you too, or not?
Well, yes. The main thing this whole thing has done for me is it's very much changed my worldview, which really started with my work with the field. You know, I came, as I say in my talk the other day, my background is as an investigative reporter. I'm used to being, you know, very diligent about facts, and that the facts control what I write. You know, I've always been very careful, and I was, you know, doing things like busting baby selling rings when I first started out. And I would be very careful about, even when there was some person who was a, you know, questionable character, who seemed in every way to be doing something reprehensible. If I didn't feel I had all of the evidence about this person, I'd soften what I wrote, because I felt, you know, hey, I don't have it. I don't have the story on him yet. I don't have enough sources. So I was very wedded to fact. So imagine, as I say in my book, when you are suddenly confronted with a miracle, when you have that kind of mindset, it kind of explodes your worldview.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was a trying to understand it. Because here I was just running a workshop, expecting it to be a very mild effect, and we had all of these extraordinary healings. And I was just gobstruck. I was gobsmacked, as they say in the UK. I was absolutely thunderstruck by this. I did not know what to make of it, and I ignored it for a while. You know, and then I tried to understand it. And then I tried to just sort of say, oh, well, ho-hum, another healing, you know, almost feel that it was, you know, oh, well, yeah, it's happening again. It's almost like this thing was happening around me, and I was just not willing to really accept it. And after doing all the research to try to understand it, I think it has something to do with intention, something to do with a group effect, the power of group, and how that creates a kind of coalescence, something about altruism and the power of getting off of yourself and healing someone else. But the biggest piece of it is an X factor, you know, something we don't completely understand. How come this is a fast track to the miraculous? Mm-hmm. But it is. Yeah. It is. And I demonstrate it over and over and over again in every talk I give, in every workshop I give. It happens.
Yeah.
And so for me, the big change has been being, as I say, I started out as a doubting Thomas, and I've ended up as an apostle, you know, reluctant apostle for the miraculous power of groups.
Yeah.
I can only tell you what I find.
Yeah, that's interesting, because now you're making the news, actually.
I guess so. And again, all not sought. You know, for many years I used to say, look, I don't understand this. I'm learning with you. I'm just the journalist here.
Yeah.
And, you know, I wanted to always make clear that, you know, I am not the guru. I'm not the healer. You know, I'm telling you what I've discovered.
Facilitator in a way, huh? You're a facilitator in a way.
Yeah, I'm the facilitator. I'm the messenger.
Yeah.
The messenger.
Yeah. Yeah, but the interesting thing is that you can, if you think about this, you can change journalism also in this way. When we look at the positive news, at the good news, that's also kind of intention.
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely, absolutely. It would be very nice if we did have, I mean, journalism has a lot to answer for these days. I mean, there's still a part of me that is, you know, horrified by the kind of journalism that gets done today. I'm not an advocate. I do not believe Donald Trump's ideas about fake news. I think what's fake news to him is what he doesn't want to believe.
Yeah.
But, he doesn't want to hear and doesn't want broadcast about himself and and how he got to the White House. But I am still kind of saddened by the level of journalism these days, the laziness in it. I mean, I when I was a young person, and a very young person, I was inspired as a teenager by everything that was happening with Watergate and Woodward and Bernstein, and that really made me want to be a journalist. These guys were heroes. They took down a corrupt presidency, and I felt, yes, that's an important thing to do, to be the fourth estate. And I think I'm still very much of that, journalists have a very, very powerful and holy task, really. But yeah, I mean, I suppose my news that I'm giving people is hope. And that's probably been the theme behind many of my books.
And not only hope, also the own responsibility, I think, because it's a way of thinking everybody can adapt and use every day, isn't it?
Yes, you can take charge of your life.
Yeah.
You can control yourself. You just, you don't need years of discipline training. You don't need ayahuasca. You don't need sweat lodges. You don't need to, you don't need hours of priming before you get into a miraculous state. You just need a group. In 10 minutes.
Yeah.
In 10 minutes, it happens. And I think that's a real powerful mechanism for people to know they can heal their lives, And that is, what is so exciting to me is the rebound effects that occur when we do, say, a peace experiment. That to me was shocking and amazing. And of course, we just saw it with the Middle Eastern peace experiment when we saw Jews sending love to Arabs and vice versa after we had done an intention together. That's more powerful than a political process.
Yes, indeed. It's a kind of a mind change, that you pray for them and want the best for them too, also for yourself.
Praying together.
Yeah.
Praying together.
Yeah.
The real key element.
Yeah. And the next thing is that you don't need to feel a victim of something anymore. It's not necessary.
No, it isn't. It is unnecessary. And you find this transformational power in groups.
Yeah.
Sometimes when they're intending for you, but oftentimes when you're getting off of yourself and intending for someone else. That was the big piece of it too. Yeah. I found that when some people weren't being helped, month after month, the group would intend for them in my master classes and nothing would happen. So I remember in the case of Andy, Andy was getting a divorce. She had 2 young children. She needed a new kind of career. She'd sold her gift store and she needed work and she couldn't get a job. And she was just trying everywhere and she wasn't getting anything. And her group were intending for her and intending for her. I finally just said, Andy, get off of yourself. Yeah. Stop. And it was in that moment that I think a few days afterward, when she started intending for someone else, the very following week, Andy got a call out of the blue from a perfect dream job, an employer seeking her for a perfect dream job. She hadn't sought it. She didn't even know the person. It was just amazing. It just was a gift from the universe. So I think that is the real thing here, is the power of altruism and what it does.
Yeah. Yes, and it's stepping out of your own ego too, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Very nice, very nice. I'm wondering, what's your next project, Lynne?
Well, I am looking at taking some of the work of the bond, and I realize that has big application for young people now, millennials, who are, trying to seek a way forward, and also people who are, the world has, in the time I wrote that book, the world is collapsing a lot more than it was even then. A lot of our major systems are really breaking down. We're questioning everything. Nobody is doing that more than young people. They're even asking basic questions like, is there a future for capitalism? You know, is this method of governance working? In the US, it's clearly not. So they need a new blueprint, and that the bond provides a lot of that, but I'm creating a new blueprint for them.
Okay.
So that's one thing I'm working on for next year.
Yeah.
But I've got a lot of work this year on the power of 8.
Yes, I
And
can imagine.
Of course, I'll be planning new experiments. Now that I've got that technology to hook up with potentially 9 different countries, there's a lot of peace projects I'd like to do. That would be really amazing.
Yes.
So we're going to work on some of those, maybe for next year.
Great.
Certainly probably for the autumn.
Yeah. One thing was very interesting too, that things become worse sometimes when we talk about war, especially. Yeah? That you see more violence, and afterwards, like Sri Lanka, and afterwards you see it's going down and solve. So is this a pattern you see in other cases too?
That was the only one where we saw. In that case, we were sending intention to lower violence in Sri Lanka during its war. There had been a 25-year civil war going on with no end in sight.
Yeah.
The government was essentially losing. The rebel forces had captured the entire north of the country, and many people were hemmed in there, innocent people. So we sent intention over 8 days. That's been our usual thing for 6 to 8 days, sending intention to a particular area. And what happened was violence quadrupled during the very week of our intention. So I got pretty frightened by this and thought, whoa, did we do that? But afterward, it tailed right down. And what was even more interesting was within a few months, the government recaptured the north, because what had happened in that very week of intention is the government had won a number of decisive battles that turned around the entire course of the war. And within a few months after that, after they had recaptured the north, that 25-year intractable war was over. Sri Lanka is a peaceful country now. Now, it ended in a bloody finish, but it ended. And that was, did we do this? Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah. It looked like we bucked the trend. We looked at violence. I had a team of scientists working on this with me. We looked at violence data from many years before, 2 years before, and then looked at it for about 4 months afterward. And violence levels had been continuing to go up, and they were supposed to carry on going up if that pattern had continued, but they then dropped down. So we may have had an effect, but, there's so many variables in a war. It's hard to say, yes, it was definitely us. But when you see this pattern over and over again of big change, then it starts becoming compelling. And we've run 5 peace intention experiments. We're still calculating the results of the Sri Lankan, the St. Louis experiment, the American peace intention experiment that we ran in October.
Okay.
We'll be finalizing the numbers probably by the end of next month. And because you have to wait some months afterward to see what happens with the pattern. You can't just look at the week afterward, because you don't necessarily have anything to really look at.
I can imagine it happens more often, that it becomes worse first, because then you can see what the real problem is, and it can be solved because it's seen. I was thinking like that. Sometimes it happens also when people are in a healing process. First it becomes worse, and after that it goes, isn't it?
I can't conclude any, I try to be a scientist about this.
Yeah.
All I can do is show you what happened.
Yeah.
I can't say that will happen all the time. I can only say this is what happened that time.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. But all I can say is it was, of the 25 years of the war, that was the most pivotal week of all.
Okay.
In terms of turning around the course of the war. That's interesting.
Okay.
As one of my scientists said, weird, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. Was that a coincidence or not?
I was trying to make a little bit good news about this, because if we see the world as it is going now, it's becoming worse first, and then you see, we go.
I know, maybe it's worse before it's better. Well, I think that is true, actually.
Yeah.
I think this kind of what's happening down is, a lot of bad things are breaking down and a lot of good things are breaking through.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we will be seeing.
Yeah. That's what we are going to stimulate with this, isn't it? Yes.
I hope so.
Yes.
I hope so.
Yes, you did. I'm sure. I'm sure. We're spreading it around. Thank you.
If people want more information about me
Yeah.
and all of my activities and our future intention experiments, and also our forum for where they can create a virtual group in their time zone, just visit me at www.lynnmctaggart.com. That's LYNNEMCTAGGART.com.
All right.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.